Welcome to episode 94 of the Hard Truth About B2B E-commerce. I'm your co-host Isaiah, and back with Tim after a little bit of a scheduling challenge. So we missed a couple weeks, but we're back on schedule.
You know, people have been looking for the next episodes to drop. I had my car towed. Unfortunately, it broke down in New York City last week. And the guy on the tow truck, I was talking to him. He is an entrepreneur. He listens to podcasts. He decided to put the podcast on from Spotify while we were riding to my service place. So he was listening to episodes of our podcast with me. And actually, we sounded pretty good. So I want to give a big thank you to Eli in Queens, New York, who was listening to our podcast while driving me to get my car fixed.
What did he think? What did he...
He's great. He has a side business doing government contract work. It's like overstocks from the government that he works with a bunch of people, and they have a warehouse space rented, and then they resell the overstocks.
I mean, it sounds kind of like a B2B business. I mean,
it is a B2B business.
That's a B2B business, government contract.
So I promised I would give Eli a shout out, and I hope he's listening to this episode. It was just one of the quirkiest, weirdest things listening to my own episode, in the car.
I'll be honest, I hate hearing myself. It bothers me, but that
sounded great. You sounded great. You sounded great. But that was the big shout out this week. I wanted to make sure people heard that. And also I want to just pause for a second for our sponsor mentions so that they can be inserted by our team. And then we're going to dive right in. We've got a great guest today, and I think we'll all have some fun. Hello, everyone. I'd like to give you a word from our sponsors. Our first sponsor is Balance. Balance is a B2B e-commerce payment solution that works well for you and for your buyers. It offers a seamless one-click checkout for almost any payment method, including ACH, wire, checks, cards, even terms. It's used by leaders in B2B e-commerce, and it's as easy as buying a shirt from Amazon. Check them out at getbalance.com. Book a session and tell them what your needs are. They are the first dedicated payment platform for B2B e-commerce, 100% tailored to your needs. Thanks again to our sponsor, Balance. Our next sponsor is TradeCentric. TradeCentric transforms the way businesses transact by enabling punch-out, purchase order, and invoice automation solutions for over 3,000 companies around the world. Uniquely positioned at the intersection of e-commerce and e-procurement, TradeCentric helps B2B buyers connect with suppliers and automate payment, procurement processes to drive greater efficiency and user adoption of streamlined systems. Learn more at tradecentric.com. Thank you to our sponsors. Isaiah, please introduce our guest.
Yeah, I think you were recommended to us from a third party, but super excited to introduce Bhagawat Rawat. I think I'm trying to say her name correctly. VP of Operations and Finance at OneScreen. You guys go by OneScreen or OneScreen.AI, which is the...
Yeah, it's either, but OneScreen.AI is the most common one because we are trying to build more of AI like everyone else.
Me too.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about you and OneScreen and just so people understand you a little bit better.
Awesome. First of all, thank you for having me over on this podcast. Really appreciate it. And yeah, so I'll start with myself. I am from India, and I've helped OneScreen set up the India team over here. A lot of our operations are managed from India. Operations, I mean, all of the campaign delivery and everything. So I'll go into details over there. But yeah, I've been into marketplaces for almost 4 to 5 years of my life so far. I've helped build out some in India, did my own startup prior to that. And yeah, now I'm here building another startup from grounds up. And that's kind of my sweet spot. That's my comfort zone, building startups and getting them from 0 to 10, kind of a journey, get them ready to scale. So
Can we
that's where
assume you mean 10 million?
yeah. Hopefully we are past 10 million now. So I'm a
Oh,
little
wow.
outside.
Wow. That's impressive.
But yeah.
So tell us about OneScreen. I mean, I was really impressed with what you showed me. Not always that immediately impressed by like something when I log in that quickly, right? And so tell us about the business and what it really is.
Absolutely. I'll tell you the problem that a lot of businesses face where we come in to solve. A lot of businesses focus entirely on digital marketing for their growth. And digital, I mean Google and Facebook. Whereas in the recent years, Google and Facebook ad costs have skyrocketed and their conversions are started to fall. They've started to fall. Because of this lower
You mind if I
conversion,
add? It's matured, right? I think we can say it's kind of like it's hit that peak volume now where like the ROI, like there's no like, I feel like it used to be kind of like this magic place where you just spend money and it was like early and that's just like gone. It's like, yeah.
it's the most competitive place right now to be in. And
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
include all the competitive sports into that. It's the most competitive place to be in because everybody's trying to bid for that same keyword, same space, same attention span. And the other part of this challenge is the conversions are falling. The conversions are falling because people are getting ad blockers a lot more. They have mentally tuned out of seeing ads,
Yeah.
like skipping ads and not registering those.
Yeah.
And also, just in general, the privacy laws that are coming up are forcing Google, Facebook, Apple to not be as targeted as they could have been earlier. The third-party cookie is
Yeah. I mean,
going to
Facebook
die.
effectiveness has gone down. I don't think it's affected Google as much, but definitely Facebook significantly. Yeah.
So this is the problem that a lot of customers, a lot of companies are facing, where what we and there are other channels to market. There has been TV, there has been radio, there has been newspaper. All of those have some sort of digital transition. TV has been taken over by OTT, so the ad dollars are flowing over there.
Yeah.
Other channels are being
I mean, it's all
replaced as
like
well.
Hulu now. I feel like I get like Hulu TV ads, right? It's like basically digital,
Yeah,
you know? Like, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, they're taking up all of the ad dollars away from television.
Yeah.
But there's one marketing channel that has survived all of this and is actually growing, and that is out of home. Now, what is out of home is the big question for people who do not know what is marketing, what is out of home. And the easiest way to describe out of home is anything that you see outside your home when you're out in the real world, traveling, going to office, coming back, shopping. Any advertisement that is displayed to you in the real world and not on your mobile phone or your television set can be considered as out of home. That's like a very vague and broad definition. But unfortunately, that's how wide this space is. And that's one of the reasons why it's very hard to kind of measure what goes into out of home. But yeah, like, consider billboards, consider bulletins, digital bulletins, static bulletins, consider wrapped cars if you've seen those, consider airplanes flying overhead carrying your advertisement logo or banner behind them. Anything that's in sports stadium that can be considered as out of home. So it comes in various shapes and forms, even after 2 years working in this company, it still blows my mind what all can you do with out of home. I've seen people make sand castles to advertise their companies, and companies doing that. I've seen people
Are they
painting.
paying for that? Like they're paying like a third party for like, okay, yeah.
So I think, I mean, just again for our listeners, because, I know somewhat about this space. I've been involved in pieces
Can you
of
tell
it.
us the story, Tim, to give us that the family story to give
All
us?
right, I'll tell this because it is really weird and funny, but I'll tell folks this. So my grandmother, I think at the early part of the 20th century, saw ads in a newspaper in New York, I think, saying buy land out west, and she bought land in Arizona, and it was $40 an acre, 40. So she'd
You got the
save
gold
up.
rush. It's like the West.
So whatever was going on, it was like, buy land in Arizona, because it's a big wide open space. And she didn't put anything on that land except a billboard. So that's sort of the funny, weird, like little family story. But of course, she kept it for decades. She didn't die until the late 1980s. She was able to sell the land because guess what? It was like the outskirts of Phoenix. Phoenix was moving toward her empty land that she had had for
And
decades.
the billboard made decent money.
Billboard it made decent money. It helped her retire, basically. So that's really just like a funny, like personal thing. But we've come obviously a long way from there. Your business has so much about, it's so much about the tech. But one of the questions I want to ask, just to see if you could somehow weave this in as we go through the podcast, is what is digital versus not? Because this is a conversation I've had with a lot of people about out of home. Some things are still slapped up, that are just wheat pasted literally onto billboards, all around the country. Other things are, the much more high tech kind of digital Times Square style, Ginza style billboards with interactive and weird stuff happening. So if you can kind of make sure that our listeners hear pieces about that too, about the digitization of out of home, I think that'll be very helpful.
Absolutely. So traditionally, all billboards have been static. By static, I mean you print a vinyl out with your ad and paste it on the billboard, and it stays there for at least 2 to 4 weeks for people to register it. Now, with the new technology, obviously you're seeing screens replacing these static billboards. There are advantages and disadvantages. The advantages with putting up a digital billboard is obviously you can sell that same space to multiple advertisers at a given point in time. So you can run invitation
and I have to just submit you an image. I don't have to like print vinyl. It's probably pretty expensive to print like a giant vinyl.
So it's less expensive because you're not printing anything, you're not installing anything on an ongoing basis once you have installed the screen. But then you get more advertisers to show up on your space. Also, you can do much more creatively. You can put up videos, you can put up moving images or something like that. You can put a lot more different type of content over there, which you cannot with static. The disadvantages, however, are also there, which is you get a less share of voice. Share of voice essentially means the time that you're displayed on that particular unit. So if you're rotating, if you're competing, if your ad is rotating with 8 other advertisers on that screen, you're trying to reach your audience, they have 1 in 8 chances of seeing your ad. That kind of reduces the efficiency.
Well, I assume you could pay for the full slot though, right? If you wanted to.
Yeah.
But what about the quality? Is the screen quality? Do you ever find that's an issue? Like that's a big screen, right? Like to get pixelated kind of looks scrappy sometimes, or
yeah. The media owners who own these screens have really good standards of what kind of images they allow on those billboards, and they would really filter out if the image is going to blow up and be very pixelated. We work with them a lot, and there's a lot of back and forth on making sure that the images that go up are really good. But still, there are challenges. Like it could be a very bright, sunny day, and there's a lot of glare, and your ad is not clearly visible in glare. There are smaller challenges, but the large challenges are around the share of voice reduction. So but obviously it's something that's happening. I think at this point in time, almost 10%. That would be my guess. 10 to 15% of the inventory in the United States has been converted to digital.
Okay, that little though. If you think, I actually would have thought it was higher. So the other 85% you would say is like print or some sort of physical signage or some sort of physical thing. Yeah.
But the transition is happening. A lot of upgrades are being done. But it'll take slightly longer.
So this includes things like, let's say, a bus shelter, a top of a taxi cab, the indoor or the outdoor of a bus or a subway car. I mean,
even some of those are digital, right? Like the taxi, I feel like New York taxi cab ones are getting like
they are now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me ask a question about interactivity, because I have seen a lot of like weird innovation tested out, and I don't know how much of it is out in the wild. So, for example, like bus shelter tests, where I stand in front of it, it's scanning me, right? It knows that I'm a male of a certain age, it looks a certain way, and it serves up an ad of a particular sort while I'm there live. Are you familiar with things like that, or what do you think about different types of things like that?
Yeah. So you can get targeted with digital, not to an extent that you can target individuals, but you can target the persona that moves in and around that street or the bus stop. So you can select areas in a city which would index higher for a particular set of demographics. Let's say, and we'll just take an example. If you are a premium jewelry store like Tiffany's or something, and you want to target women in the age range of 30 to 50 who have in the past shopped at a precious stones or a jewelry store in the last 12 months and who have a disposable income of, let's say, 50,000 or higher, you can use these parameters and understand where in the city would be the best position to place your ad, which would target these set of clients or over index for these set of clients. Obviously, you cannot target them at an individual level, but at a collective level, you can target them.
So there's an agency that I've worked with called, and I'll name them because I don't think they'll mind. It's called CMN, for Cartagena's Marketing Network, and they focus on Hispanic and Latinx communities in the U.S. and around the world. And they have partnered with a number of different like digital out of home, because they do a lot of they like folks, our listeners will know folks like Bad Bunny, for example. They work with Bad Bunny.
I
Right?
just heard, I was like so far, but that's how I know I'm getting old, when I just heard about Bad Bunny not that long ago.
Well, they also work with people like Mark Anthony. They work with a lot of like older timey, sort of artists in the space. But here's the punchline though. They do a lot of venue specific marketing, right? And so venue specific, of course, out of home, right? It's all, trying to figure this out. And they've worked with some people to kind of make it more interesting and more high techy. And one of the things that they did, for example, is that they were trying to figure out like a sneaker sponsor, right, for a series of concerts, and they did scans of people's feet going into stadiums, and the scans did image recognition and said, that the percent of people going into these stadiums for this artist was higher for Adidas than it was for Nike. They bring that data to Adidas, and Adidas says, okay, I'll sponsor, right? So that I found fascinating, because in a way it's like, you don't just go say, hey, I think this will work. It's like, here's the data. And then they're doing digital stuff related to people wearing Adidas in the stadium.
I've got a funny Adidas and Bad Bunny story for you, but
I love it, right? How specific, right?
So I got I wouldn't say forced, but I ended up going to Coachella, which is not really my thing. But my friend warned me, who's like big into it, and he really wanted me to go. And he goes every year. He's like, you got to make sure your shoes are good. So I went to go buy new shoes like a week before, and I went to Adidas, and they I'm sure you've seen, they don't discount much at like the core store, right? Like if you go to like Nike or Adidas, like there's not. And I talked around, I got pretty clear on like the right shoe for like walking. Seemed like the best one. Like I looked at all the different brands, and like Adidas had and they're like, you might get a better deal at the Foot Locker. Like their own people know that you get a better deal for the same shoe at their own retailer, that like Adidas is selling the shoe to Foot Locker, who's then discounting it to me. And I got a better deal. I got a $30. It was only $30 off, but it was, I didn't pay full price.
But Bhagawat, I bet you get involved in those kinds of things, right?
Yeah, we haven't done obviously what you described. That seems fascinating. If you are able to target very contextually a captive audience and then sponsor that event, that's fascinating. But we do get closer to targeting a set of people and selecting the right persona for our advertisers to target them. Yeah, the technology is there and it's evolving, I think, for out of home, and it's getting very nuanced, and you can target people, and then you can measure what your ad had the impact. Like, did it actually lead to, like, what you described was one part, like you understood the persona and you found the right opportunity for Adidas to sponsor. But
Mhm.
what happened afterwards? That's the fun part of it, which the marketers really like. What was the ROI on spending on that sponsorship? How many actual sales did I see? How many actual visitations did I see? And that's where our product or technology or platform comes into play much more strongly, because we're able to give this information back to our advertisers and clients as to what, like, if you put up $100,000 worth of advertisements in New York City, uh, how many people did it reach out to? Out of those, how many people did come on your website or your landing page? How many took an action on your landing page and went to a checkout page? How many of those people visited your
How
physical
would you track
store?
that though?
The everything is tracked. The basic technology that's there, it's the mobile advertising ID, MAIDs, for iPhones and IDFAs for Androids. That's the one that even is that's the ID that's used for your digital tracking. Everything that you do on a browser or your mobile phone or
So
your
is it
laptop.
based on their location or like that okay, you're like, oh, we had
Yeah,
more
so
people.
yeah, yeah, the MAID and the IDFA, it also gives geolocation information.
Mhm.
Where are you at a particular point in time? And you are able to track them based on
Is that
the
the
mobile
main
ID.
metric? Because otherwise, like, I mean, or do you try and like have, I mean, you could have like a specific landing page in the advertisement, and that would be an easy way, right? Because you know that they're finding it from that, but yeah.
Yeah, so the challenge is that so once you observe, so let's say you have a billboard in Times Square or any highway, we create a area, a polygon on the map from where that billboard is visible for a sufficient duration. And any mobile ID that's observed within that area, we capture that during the duration your campaign was up. Now, once we have a bunch of these MAIDs or mobile advertising IDs, we then cross-reference them to what was observed on the landing page during the campaign duration. And if there was a match between what we observed in the physical space versus what was observed on your website, if there's a match, that qualifies as something that was influenced directly from the advertisement that we put up in the physical space. We also test it against a control group. So we test it against someone who has not seen your physical advertisement, who has not been observed in that polygon, and did they land up on your website? And that difference tells us how effective the campaign was in converting. Yeah.
So, Sam, I'll tell you that. So, at Coachella, Bad Bunny was one of like the main performers. So that I didn't realize like how big he was, but
He's a big deal, yeah.
yeah, I mean that's because that's like that
If you
means
were
you're
at
like way
Coachella,
above all the other ones that are like also big, and like he was,
I was just saying, if you were at Coachella, we for one of our clients, we did Coachella's some sort of activation in Coachella as well. So
We
you
have a
might have
lot of
seen.
advertising, right? Yeah,
You know,
it makes sense.
it's really funny. I think I didn't realize we had all of these connections because the live stream company that I work with and I mentioned has entertainment and whatever. We do live streaming at Coachella, among other things. So there's all of this,
Yeah,
connection.
yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's 120,000 people outside for like 3 days. So it's like a pretty good place to advertise in that sense. But what I found, what was the most interesting to me that I was wondering if you guys have started to see it, is there was one performer that did like this insane like 3D, like most people just have like a background, whatever, images and video. And so it's a digital background. But in this case, it was like full 3D. Like it felt pretty real, like all the way pretty far out, and I don't even know. I guess I heard it's some new technology. Are you seeing anything like that? Because from that, I was like really impressed by how well it works. Like it was. I mean, it's got to be expensive right now.
I've seen those too. They're cool.
I'm sure the price will come down over time as they like perfect it more, but it looks pretty expensive however they did it. But have you guys seen much more like 3D digital interaction?
Yeah, we are seeing a lot of those. I think the most famous one was done by Nike, and then a bunch of others followed suit. It's something that's more. It definitely catches your eye and becomes like a thing that you can share on social media as well and power up your Facebook and everything. So it's like out of home
Like
powering all of your other.
augmented reality kind of thing, basically. Yeah, yeah.
I think
The
there's a
one in
specific tool for
Piccadilly,
them.
the one in Piccadilly in London gets tons of press. I mean, that's really remarkable. The spinning shoe, that was the Nike thing where it spun out.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah.
spun out of
There's
the
one in Piccadilly, there's one in Tokyo, there's one in Beijing, I think. And there's a specific term for them. I think they're called amorphic or like
Yeah,
something of that sort.
anamorphic?
Anamorphic. Yeah,
Anamorphic.
you
That was
figured
So
it out.
is it more
Yeah.
like the infrastructure needs to be built? Like there needs to be more of these things, so there's more inventory that you can buy of those kind of things. Is that?
Yeah, yeah, it's more about the rendering of the graphic on that screen. So it's like an L-shaped screen, like two-sided LED panel, and it's just the rendering of the image on that screen, which gives it that 3D and depth look
It just
into it. But you
confuses
can buy,
people. I mean, it
yeah,
actually, I read a story about it that I didn't quite understand, I have to be honest, but it basically confuses your eyes. So it's based on that technology. Like your eyes are looking like in this way, and it doesn't expect things to come around a corner like that. So when they see it, it appears that it's just flying off the screen and whatever.
Oh, okay. So that's the science behind it kind of
Oh, it's
thing.
great science. Like whoever came up with it, they're great.
Yeah, it's someone that's interesting. So yeah, I mean, I can.
that's the sorry, I was just saying that that's the beauty of all the foam. You cannot do these things in Google and Facebook. You're limited to that
You're absolutely right.
video.
And the closest thing you can do is you can send them to an augmented reality thing, but yeah, it's still kind of limited to the screen on your phone and or whatever, and or your computer. It's not going to be this like crazy. The thing that I saw was like it worked. So it was so big that it covered like thousands of people. Like it looked like it was over thousands of people. Like
And
that's
you
how
cannot skip it.
what? Yeah.
You cannot skip it.
Yeah, exactly. You can't. Yeah, it was crazy. Like
Yep.
everyone that saw it was like that. And to be honest, I was like, that was the best thing. It wasn't the headliner. That was the best thing of the whole thing. It was one of like the day ones, or like before, the big guys. But
So I have some like let me see. I want to make sure I'm coming up with like crazy questions our listeners might come up with. So, do you also do the programmable like shelf ads that are in stores that I've seen many times, or the ones that are like LG? I'll mention them specifically. They do this in their displays where all of a sudden when people come there, different things happen on the screens and stuff is happening out in the space. Do you do that as well? You can kind of book
Yeah,
these sorts of things.
yeah. So we do programmatic digital campaigns as well. Programmatic is essentially serving so you don't have control over when the ad would show if you're buying programmatically. It'll
Yeah.
show up based on the bidding ratios. It's more of a bidding platform. The higher you bid, the higher probability your ad has to be shown to the audience. But when you mention the shelf screens in retail stores or in grocery stores, that's something that we call as place-based CTV. So that's a very because it's kind of important for the position that and the relative space that it is put in. It's called place-based connected TV, and a
Mhm.
lot of companies have started doing that. We have done that in the past a lot. You can target like doctors' offices specifically using a network that has placed screens in doctors' offices. You can hyper contextually target those audience. You can target them in grocery stores, or you can
yeah,
target
we
them
know
in
you're
Walmart.
sick, so buy our.
Exactly. Yeah, a lot of companies do that. Buy our insurance, or buy our medicines, or buy our
Yeah.
whatever. to people who are there.
So I know we're I want to make sure we transition, like, so at the end of the day, you're only selling to businesses, right? And so tell us about that process, what it's like for you guys. Is it fairly automated? Like, can I go in and just buy, or do I have to talk to someone, or how does that work?
Yeah. The way that the platform functions right now is it's not open for businesses to do it themselves. It's not a self-serve platform. We offer this as a complete services solution right now. So if you're a business, we would love to talk to you and give you and understand from you what are the objectives of your campaign. Have you ever done out of home in the past? How did that go? Why are you planning to do out of home? What's your interest? What are your goals? If there is a big product launch coming up, if there's a new announcement that your company wants to make, or if it's just to drive more users to your platform. Based on those goals and your target persona and the budget availability, we go ahead and build out a campaign, a custom campaign plan for you. Now, that campaign planning obviously utilizes a lot of data and a lot of tools that we have built for ourselves. But I do not think we are going to open that up for everyone to use as of now, because there's still a judgment involved in how we plan for these campaigns. Obviously, we are experimenting with the new age AI technology as well, the large language models to uh, give it out better responses. But we build the entire campaign for you, and there are at least a few iterations with the client to make sure that this fits their expectations, their budgets, their timelines, and then we go ahead and execute the campaign on behalf of our client. So it's a fully white gloved service. The client has to just press the button, and we take care of the entire
So
execution of
when you say press the button, so do they have a login? They sign the contract on the platform, and how does that all work?
Yeah, right now the contract is signed over an email. I think it's old school in that way. But yeah, the we are building logins for our clients, but specifically to see the impact of their campaigns. Once the campaign has started or has been put in motion, what kind of data are you getting? What kind of impression counts? What kind of people measurements are you getting out of the campaign? We are focusing more on that aspect rather than making the clients do the hard work of putting the campaign together or executing the campaign. Because honestly, why would you want to do that? You're more interested, like you put in your card into Google Ads, select a bunch of parameters, and then look at Google Analytics dashboard on how your campaign is performing. It's a similar thought process. Like we'll take care of the heavy work. You sit back and enjoy what are the impressions and what are the measurements, what is the effectiveness of your campaign.
I think that is kind of an interesting way to look at B2B e-commerce, right? Is like B2B e-commerce in general, it's like what customers kind of want is like, hey, I have a problem. I'm okay talking to someone, but ultimately I want to be able to just like give you my card info, trust that you're going to spend my money smartly, and then log in and see the results. Like, it sounds funny, but like you could probably apply that to almost like any B2B distribution, e-commerce. Like, you know, I have things that I want to accomplish, make sure that I can go in and get the right stuff and ship it to me. You know, like people, I think, just want to be able to like log in and see kind of the results of the impact of whatever it is, you know.
Absolutely. And that's true for commodity services where you know that if you purchase something, you'll get the exact same thing. But if there's more, we believe that there's more decision making, there's more judgment involved in designing a perfect campaign. And right now, we are working on the technology to make it smarter, to make that decision on its own in an automated fashion based on the inputs given by the clients. Right now, at this point, we believe that involvement of a human decision, an expert media planner is going to serve better to our clients. But who
So,
knows what's out there in the future?
so related to this, you know, how do you connect? Let's say you have a really successful, you know, social media, you know, operation going on for your B2B. Let's just imagine that's the case. how do you leverage all of that imagery and all of that data and all of that, everything that happens there, for out of home, or do you? Because I feel like there's a little bit of a disconnect there, where I've seen excellent campaigns in out of home and excellent campaigns in social for the same brand, but they don't necessarily connect.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Like a different department is running it or something, and
Yep.
they're not talking to each. Yeah.
That's a good point. We haven't kind of leveraged the social angle or social campaigns for our clients right now. What we do is the reverse of that. Once you have run an out of campaign, we give you amazing photo shoots and amazing videos that you can go and activate on your social media, create buzz from that. So that's where we are right now. I don't think we have incorporated until unless the client comes up to us and says that, hey, we did this in social, this really worked well. This is the creative that we want to kind of leverage in the out of home campaign to kind of augment our social channels or other paid channels. But yeah, that's where we are.
I think one of the, and I can mention them because they're great people, but Dude Wipes, for example, has excellent social
Those guys
campaigns.
are like the smartest, like random.
They're the smartest, and they have out of home that is brilliant. Actually, they're very targeted. They'll do it at like near conferences that have to
I've
do.
never seen the out of home, so
They'll do it like at conferences where there are buyers who are going to show up, or retailers that haven't put their product in the store. Like they got a billboard. I'll say it's Walmart, but I'm not sure that that's the case. Like at Walmart, like in front of their parking lot,
yeah,
because
like
they
try
were to
and
Walmart.
get, like their biggest retailer or whatever.
Well,
Yeah.
no, it's before they were in there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And they said, why aren't you able to buy this product in Walmart? And Walmart's like, oh my God, we got to put this product in Walmart. And so it was brilliant in that way.
I
It
think
was
they're
so
like
targeted.
#2 in the industry now or something like that. Something
They have
insane.
done
Yeah.
incredibly. They're a lesson to everybody in a lot of different things. They're really just brilliant, like Liquid Death, they're also brilliant in other
I'll be
ways.
honest, I actually stopped, like I felt like Instagram was just getting too much, so I don't use it on my phone right now. The one thing I missed is the Dude Wipes Instagram.
They're great. They're absolutely great. But you see the connection with the out of home Bhagawat, right? I mean, because they were very conscious of doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of clients come to us. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, they were really smart about doing both, right? And I think it's
Yes,
right.
that's the thing.
I don't think that
Yeah,
the days of like, oh, I just put all my money into Facebook, or I just put, like, you gotta spread your money around, So
and that's the future of marketing. Like marketing skewed heavily towards digital, and for good reasons, because digital really unlocked growth for some of these companies. But I think now that we are peaking in the effectiveness of digital, and now marketeers will have to find another S curve to grow, and it's going to be omni-channel. It's going to be more out of home. And the one thing that I would add on to Tim's point is a lot of companies feel like they do not understand that you can actually use out of home for account-based marketing, which is what they did with Walmart. You can have your key accounts that you want to target as places of interest in the physical world, and target those specifically with out of home. One of our clients recently, and this is not purely account-based marketing, but one of our clients recently had a great launch nationwide in CVS stores. And they targeted those top 100 CVS stores with out of home campaigns. And they were able to buy inventory like right on top of CVS stores that we are available now here. Like that's perfect.
what would you say is maybe one of the smartest campaigns you've seen, like on out of home plus digital, like kind of multi-channel, where it all worked together and you're like, oh, this is like makes a lot of sense?
Yeah, it's the basic question is reach into frequency. So how many people can you reach and how frequently can you reach?
Well, I'm asking,
there are
is
some
anyone that stands out to you that you were like, wow,
Oh.
this is like really.
Let me think. But a lot of companies have done combinations of out of home and digital. I think famously RAM did that and Brex did that in the past. Brex was trying to acquire a lot of customers in the
Brex,
Silicon Valley area. Yeah.
the credit card. Yeah.
credit card company. They famously acquired and charged their entire growth using out of home, and they have a brilliant case study on that. And Ram recently did that as well in Miami.
What was special about it that?
Yeah, they had a I think they had a floating billboard, like a ship with their billboard, and they were targeting one of their competitors' off-site party. So their competitors were partying on the shore on the beach, and they were floating with their ad around. So it's like pretty
People used to
insane.
do that with airplanes, with
Yeah.
the lines. Like there would be something happening on the beach or in a city with a shoreline, and you'd have the planes flying by advertising competitive products and stuff. And I
Funny.
love that kind of thing. It's very guerrilla, it's really kind of
It is.
fun.
It is.
Yeah.
There is an element of guerrilla marketing if you want to use it in that
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
do
I mean, there's
oh,
like
I'm sorry.
endless possibilities. I mean, from what you showed me in your guys' platform, it's pretty insane how many like options there are.
So I was going to ask if you have partners in the more traditional print marketing spaces that do things like package insert programs that do, they'll blanket areas where they'll replace shopping bags with ads, on them and for particular products or
Or just
events.
direct mail, right? Direct mail in that region or something
So
like that.
do you partner in that way, or do you have any of those kinds of Yeah, good.
Yeah, we partner with a ton of suppliers of anything out of home, and we have done campaigns. Specifically, I can recall one where it involved pizza box sponsorship. So the pizza boxes were sponsored by the company, so like specific company was sponsoring on the pizza box. That's pretty neat because they were targeting to reach. They're targeting college graduates who order who they had a specific TG, and pizza boxes was a great way to reach to those persona. So yeah, a lot of in-mail inserts,
Mhm.
boxes, shopping bags, newspapers. We partner with these suppliers as well.
I mean, one of the things that I said to a client recently is that no media is dead, right? I mean, and I kind of believe that. I really do. It's not like if somebody told me that there's still a cataloger and all that's all they do, I'd think they were crazy, right? But there's no reason you can't have some print and some, of the now traditional digital of Google and whatever, and different types of out of home. I mean,
I honestly think direct mail is underrated if you do it right. I think that like there's too much just junk direct mail, but I think if you got more creative and maybe it makes you link back to the website or a couple, you have some out of home next to it, like, you know what I mean? I think that some of the stuff is like, I mean, I can't say that I've had zero, like direct mail is usually throwaway, but sometimes it's like, oh, this is interesting. Like,
Yeah.
it's true. It's true. Do you do all over? We mentioned buses and trains and stuff. I want to ask a little bit more about that because I know I have a lot of clients in cities, and I'm a New Yorker. I'm wondering more if you could tell us more about that. Like, how do clients like activate an entire train, a subway car, or something
we
like
have
how?
airplanes to that too.
Yeah. So the most common transit media that we have activated or sold is wrapped cars, full wrapped cars, partial wrapped cars, followed by wrapped buses,
Would do
like the
that? Would
entire
that
bus is
be
being
the
wrapped.
the
Yeah.
who does is it the cab companies or who does the full wrap cars?
Yeah, it's a combination. So there are a bunch of suppliers. We work with Mobile Ads, Movia, LED Trucks. These are some of the prominent names in the industry who do these kind of wrap cars. They partner directly with either the cab companies or the drivers, and they have them on the platform. They can wrap the cars partially, fully, and put up advertisements
Are more
on
Uber drivers doing that? If I was a full-time Uber driver, why wouldn't I do that and just make more money, right? I mean,
absolutely. Yeah, a lot of Uber drivers are doing that. Famously, I think Uber is the one who's running the taxi toppers in NYC, I believe.
Yeah.
So they are owning that inventory.
so-
So you can do that.
sorry. So cars number one, then buses number two.
and buses, and we do subways as well. And subways offer different opportunities, like the subway station itself is an opportunity to sponsor, but then the subway, you can do subway wrappings as well as anything inside the subway where they allow advertisements. And there are companies specifically who do that. Different companies in different regions, but you can do that as well.
Imagine if you had the whole subway car wrapped with like.
I've seen it. It's pretty cool. It's pretty
Pretty
cool.
cool.
Seen it? Yeah, that's like a lot. That's a lot of work. It's
Well, I can't, you know what? And I really wish I could remember the brand at this point, but it got a lot of press at the time, but they did the entire ceiling, walls, and floors of the subway car, which was so shocking to people, like you were in a totally different environment. Because that
yeah, because when you walk into it, you're like, what is going on?
it was really like, oh, what is this? Because it's always like the bands around the top or whatever you would expect.
And then everything else just looks old. Like when I feel like I go in, I just feel like I'm in like this like old thing, right? That like somehow still operates.
Yeah, there you go. But it's so you do that, and we talk about planes, right? You said that there are opportunities to have more planes. So that's cool.
We have done planes at least 2 or 3 times in the last 2 quarters, I think. So
What would be
yeah,
the plane activation?
cost.
Well, no. What would it be? Is it?
What did you do?
Oh yeah, the plane activation is essentially a small plane flying with your ad banner flying behind it. So they'll carry the ad banner
Oh, not
across.
in a plane.
Not in a plane or like some of
Not
those
in a
like.
plane. Yeah, I meant to say that.
Because the
alien
tray
liners.
tables pop down. Like I was on a Delta flight,
Yeah.
and it popped down, and the tray table had an ad on the other side, right? So
Yeah,
You-
or the
Yeah,
screen.
we can do that.
I don't know if you consider that digital, but it's like technically out of home, right? Like, I mean,
I'm into it all. I love seeing what people come up with. I like the creativity. And, I think consumers appreciate that too. They just like to have something kind of shake up the environment. It doesn't have to be, deep, right? It doesn't even have to be that clever. It's just something that shakes it up a little bit, right?
Wow.
That's what out of home has a great opportunity to make a ding in your target's mind.
Yeah. So I want to get back to just because like a lot of our listeners in the industry in B2B is traditional, right? Selling commodities or commodity-like services. I think that what's interesting though, if you really think about it, is like a lot of them are service oriented. And it makes sense kind of what you're saying, where like most of the purchases do require a person or some consultation because it's a big job, or even though, it's not like one thing, they're like, there's a lot of things that go into it. But the login, and I feel like the e-commerce aspect of this stuff is really like helping the experience be better for for any B2B service, right? I mean, even us at Trellis, we want to build our own customer login. We haven't built it yet. I mean, it's not as normal in the agency digital services business, but we feel like there's a place for what we can do. But I think that just the concept they were talking about of like how like people just want to kind of log in and see like the results of their purchases, even if there's a human involved, is what
I would disagree with you. I think we're just following our customers right now, what they want. And I don't think they want to log in to do the campaign themselves. They eventually want to log in.
No, I'm not saying necessarily do the campaign. I'm saying that there's a login for them to see the effectiveness of what's going on. Yeah.
That would be if we were to build a login, that would be the first thing that I'd want to show them.
So from an e-commerce perspective, it would be more like I want to see my orders, where they're coming. Like it would be like more like that, because the effectiveness in their case is like, did I get my stuff? You know what I mean? So yeah, so I'm trying to kind of translate it over into that world a little bit.
Well, I mean, we've talked about this on the podcast before, but for this episode, I'll mention it. My one of the clients I've worked with were basically working. They're a giant B2B company, multi-billion-dollar, and they're all working on portal stuff, right? Because that's what their clients want at this point. Is they want a portal. They don't want to do everything, right? As you said, you're absolutely right, Bhagawat. They don't. They want to do everything, but they want visibility to everything. It's like,
yeah, they might want to call up and say, I have a big job, get all the things done, and then they want to log in and see that it's going to like happen, right? Like,
yep.
What happens if an item's like not on time? Your job is could be in jeopardy, right? For whatever you're doing, right? So yeah,
And the dashboard is what they need.
yeah, it's a customer dashboard. And I think traditionally B2B, SaaS is SaaS, right? SaaS has been doing that because it's SaaS. But like all these traditional B2B businesses, like they don't think like that. You know what I mean? Like the idea of like a customer, they're like, well, do I build a B2B e-commerce site? And it probably is almost better to be like, no, we need to build a customer, like our B2B e-commerce site is really more of a customer dashboard. And we might still do some of the work for them. You know what I mean? Like that's almost a better way to think about it, you know?
Yeah. And it's not that we arrived at this answer in the first go. The first iterations of the product did have customer logins, both on the supplier side and the partner side. I don't think there was any interest in either the clients or the partners to use that, because it's not something that flows naturally in their workflow, and that's something that they were not demanding, or that not even using that rigorously.
It's too much work for them, right? It's a lot harder than like managing a Facebook ad, I assume, right? Yeah.
So that's how it's all evolution. We arrived at this after failing as well on creating those logins, and now we have decided, and we're learning more from our customers. If the customer need changes, why not? It's all leading from the customer's need and what they require. Was the best way to service them.
If you were a B2B customer or business and you could start over, you think you would start by trying to really understand like what do they want to do themselves and what do they want to see and build around that kind of thing, right? Like, and what do they not want to do? And then, you can kind of just service that, right?
Yeah. If I were to do this over again, I would want to build from what is going to deliver the maximum value. And the maximum value is how to make this entire format more measurable. Like that's the maximum value. Out of home, you can buy out of home from different agencies or different partners, but you can only buy out of home in a way that it works for you and you can actually see it work for you through OneScreen. So that's the differentiating factor. I want to build that over.
And then you make sure that they can log in and see that, and and they're like, oh, this worked.
This worked.
So I was going to ask a little bit different question. So can you tell us, I don't know if you could name any, but you don't have to, but can you tell us like typical clients, or, what are the biggest types of clients or the types of challenges that they have? Just more about your clients so that people can relate a little bit for our listeners.
Yeah, so we work with a range of clients. The major industries, I'll start over there. The major industries that we get our clients from are software companies, obviously technology companies. Fintech is big for us. CPG brands, again, are very big because they do a lot of out of home in general.
Sure.
So typically these three verticals have performed very well for us. Now, if you look at any of the campaigns, like we did campaigns with BetMGM, we did campaigns in CPG with Hippies. We did campaigns with I think we did it with Amplitude. We did it with RAM. We did campaigns for Mercury. So there are a bunch of companies across these verticals. We are not very focused on a specific vertical for our client set, because out of home, because it's such a wide, it offers such a wide variety of opportunities. I think it has everything for every sort of client, every kind of industry, and that's why we're not focusing ourselves narrowly into a specific vertical right now.
Now, is everything US only at this point?
Yes, we are predominantly US only, although we have done a few campaigns in Canada, in Europe, in UK as well.
Okay.
It's predominantly US.
is there any part, I mean, I'm going to just ask a random question, because again, I was thinking city-based stuff for a lot of reasons, because again, folks I've worked with recently, but are there, like, is there a better environment for out of home in any particular city? Like, or are some cities just like not into billboards and not into whatever? Like, so how do you, like, could you tell us a little bit about that too? I mean, New York is known for its billboards, but a lot of cities aren't.
Yeah, a lot of cities aren't. So we obviously you find a few type of personas more in greater densities in cities like New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Miami, Houston, Boston, Washington. These are the obvious hubs, and we have done a lot of campaigns in these cities. I think the inventory quality also matters when we are selecting uh, uh, particular campaigns for our clients. New York obviously indexes higher in
Yeah.
those. New York, LA, Miami, we have done plenty of campaigns and we know the industry, we know the inventory in those cities. But we have also done campaigns across lesser dense cities, Pittsburgh, Buffalo. We've done campaigns in Swansboro, cities which even I was not aware of. We have done campaigns over there because it kind of, and that's the beauty of the platform and using data for the platform. Like you can find relevant people for your campaign using data,
Probably
and
at a
that's
good
that's
price, right? Like Boise, Idaho, I can find like lower cost inventory than like LA or New York, right? And it might have like pretty good buyers for my whatever I'm selling, you know? So yeah, yeah, the data
New
that
York would be. Yeah, even if for out of home, it will be slightly on the costlier side because there's so many people competing for that inventory and it's premium inventory. But if you go to and we measure it by a metric called CPM, cost per mile. It essentially measures how many dollars do you require to achieve 1,000 impressions. New York, you can go high. It can cost you like $20, $25 to reach out to 1,000 impressions. Other cities, it might just cost you $3 to reach that level of impressions for that TG.
hey, we might need to have a conversation after this. If I can get some $3 CPMs, I don't know. There might be an interesting play for us.
Why not, right?
What can you give people comparison to what that would be on Facebook or Google?
Facebook and Google CPMs also vary a lot, but I think I've seen Facebook CPMs in the range of $20 to $25 going all the way up to $75 as well, as nuanced as you get in your definition of
I
the
think
target
Google can be
segment.
even more depending on the
Can be.
yeah, for search, and the search sometimes gets really expensive, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, so like that's cool because basically in theory, like you could get a lower CPM than any digital in like smaller cities, right?
And out of home actually helps you improve your Google and Facebook output as well. Uh, we did publish a case study on this, and it's titled "How to Beat Facebook with Billboards." But there is enough evidence that by doing out of home, you can actually lower your CPM and cost of acquisition on Google and Facebook because it kind of amplifies out of home amplifies the
Yeah,
other
I mean,
channels.
I think that's what people don't understand about marketing is that like most people don't buy from one thing, or like you don't see one ad. I mean, it could take you years of seeing the brand before you buy, right? Even for I bought little CPG stuff and it took me a long time of seeing ads and the brand before I finally was like, you know what, it's time to like, this is cool. I'm gonna actually buy it now. So yeah, I mean, and I think when you see something in multiple different formats, it's like a psychological thing, right? Where like, oh, I saw a billboard and a Google ad and a Facebook ad is probably a lot more powerful than seeing the same Facebook ad 3 times, you know? Yeah.
So I don't know, you probably know this, but I'm not sure our listeners do, but you know, some brands and companies own their own out of home, kind of like their original retail advertising network, like IKEA, for example. You know, IKEA owns most of its own billboards, right? So it's something that they use and do very well with, and so does Disney, for example. You know, Disney owns a lot of its own billboards, especially near its parks. or near theaters, where they have something happening or whatever.
Once you're that rich, I mean,
But I think I'm bringing it up because it's interesting. It's like those folks, knew the value of it and invested in it, and they've stuck with it, and they've kind of just done their own thing. But there's no reason that anyone else in business can't do this and participate in that world.
Are any of them reselling that? Like they might have like a no competitors policy, right?
Oh.
Disney won't sell it to like Netflix or whatever, right? But like, I wonder if that would be interesting, right?
I don't know. I mean, I know that the fact that they own a lot of this, stuff, but I'm not sure I know what they do with it. I know IKEA famously puts a lot of its own ads because nobody has to approve them, right? They're just up on their own billboards, right? So,
yeah. It would just be kind of funny or interesting if they had like they converted them to digital, they could sell them to OneScreen, right? Or and then they might be like, yeah, you can't be a direct competitor to like, I don't know how that would work.
A lot of companies place these kind of constraints. Like if I'm buying a billboard, and if you're like an Apple or someone large, you can actually put constraints on if you have that kind of negotiating power. Even if you're renting out a billboard from someone, you can put a constraint that, hey, this billboard, if it's digital, it should not show any other competitors, or in a radius around this billboard, you'll not put any other competitors of mine.
Interesting.
Our companies are able to leverage that kind of power.
We go both ways on the Yeah, that's interesting. Are there any like weird constraints or things, like what are things to look out for that people might not think about?
Yeah, there are constraints that the media owners put in, but that's mostly from a safety and regulatory perspective, that you can't put in certain advertisements on their billboards. The usual mistake that we have seen is in the creatives, like people, and that's where our consultative approach comes into picture as well. We can actually help you identify whether this creative will make sense on this particular unit or not. So like ranking, understanding if the backdrop is plain blue sky, and if your creative has blue background, it's not going to be very distinctive. Like these are simple things that would not have mattered in a digital ad when you're seeing it on a screen, but in a physical world, a lot of these things matter. On the other hand, a lot of people miss out that you can get very creative with simple billboards. What you can do is you can do extensions. What I mean by extensions is you can go outside the box of the billboard and have like a mountain coming out of the image. We did this with one of our clients, Everyman Jack, wherein they had like gorgeous creatives with mountains coming out of their billboards. It's possible that it registers differently against the backdrop scenery where the billboard is located. So these are like fantastic creative ideas that we help our clients with. So yeah,
I think it's just because they're not used. It's like okay, we do social ads. It's like they know, but like the billboard ad, it's just like they're not like, they just never done it before. It's not their expertise, right? So they're just
I mean, some of it is common sense, I think, because people aren't going to put like nudity and swear words on a billboard on a highway. I mean, that's common sense. But the stuff you're bringing up, I think a lot of people just don't think about it, right? I mean, because they haven't put stuff outdoors. You're right.
It's such a big format, like it's such a. I mean, it's like you're a designer and like you're not used to designing for like a 50-foot thing or whatever it is. Like.
Well, there was a
texts on the billboards. Like, why would you put small text? It's not readable.
What is a typical billboard format size or width and length?
It's 48 cross 14. That's the typical
48 feet by 14 feet. Yeah. Well,
what about you? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I wouldn't know what font to design for that.
I was just going to ask about QRs. People put QRs on billboards, but I always think it's a bit odd. Like, I'm not going to hold my phone out while I'm driving.
I
So
think
what
it
do you
could
think?
work for like smaller, maybe like in subway, right? Like in the subway.
Oh yeah, that's
Where
different. But I mean, like literally, like highway billboards and stuff.
billboard, yeah, I think you gotta, yeah, that's probably.
That's a mistake.
I think it's a mistake. Thank you for agreeing with me on that because I'm like, what is that about? I'm not gonna. I really am not. Can you imagine me going 60 miles
Until
an
wait,
hour?
until they
Like,
get to the 3D billboards where like it's like coming at you, right? Then it's like the QR code
that,
was like
that.
If you want to try, someone wants to try it like that, that will be good use of technology, like building a QR code in 3D view, because people would have their phones out at that time. They're not driving, they're not watching out for cops or something like that. You're just in that space. So, like using, and one of the things that people often miss out is you can not only get creative with what you're putting on the billboard, but you can, if you're using digital more so, you can swap them out often. Like you can switch creatives in between. So you can use the first 2 weeks of your campaign, launching your brand or doing something which sets the ground, and then follow up after 2 weeks with an offer once people have registered that yeah, this is a brand that I should be looking out for. Then go out with an offer and then do something else with that creative. So like having a more sequentially engaging storytelling kind of a
yeah,
philosophy also can be done over here,
make a difference.
and
Yeah.
it's very
That's
different.
great.
That way.
So is there, we're getting close to our wrap up time. Are there anything else that you want to, tell our listeners or want to make sure that they know how to contact you, of course, if they're interested in this, and I'm sure they will be. So what would you like to tell us?
Yeah. The one thing that I would want to touch upon, and this is really fascinating. Obviously, we are seeing a lot of AI being picking up in all of the conversations, and we at OneScreen are trying to kind of work in that front as well. Obviously, a lot of things. This industry as a whole was considered old school about 10 years ago as well. With the new data that's coming in, the new tools and software that's being built in this industry, it's really amazing how targeted can you be and how can you use this format to improve your marketing efficiencies. But now we are at a position wherein we can use uh, sort of AI as well to design billboards. Like one of the companies, Revolve, designed, I think, 5 billboards purely using an AI tool called
I mean,
Midjourney.
we're working on that. We're working on AI ad designs.
Yep, I'm using
Exactly.
Midjourney, Dolly, and Bard and ChatGPT. I'm using them all. So
Yeah, I mean,
And
because you
they
can create the imagery and
did
you can create that all that stuff pretty automated now. Yeah.
And they did the entire campaign creative designing in a matter of days, which would have costed them insanely more to get the models, get the location, get the ad unit over there, shoot it, post production, all of those things. And instead of that, they used a bunch of prompts and let the AI create those billboard designs for them, and they actually ran those billboards on 5 of their
It'd be
units, and
funny if
that
they
became
tested to see like are they better than like the human created ones and like see which one like went better. You know what I
they
mean?
are indistinguishable. You cannot distinguish by looking at that ad whether it
No,
was
no, I
created
know,
by
but I'm saying like their own people. You're just to see it, like if their
yeah,
people can do better, kind of thing, right? But we might try that out. To be honest, now that I think about it, we're in the early stages of that same concept. Obviously, ours would be more digitally focused, right? Just regular traditional digital ads. What's funny that I say traditional digital ads, right? We're like, I feel like we've kind of like reversed, right? It's like digital was super high value for a long time. Now it's kind of like I don't want to say overvalued, but it's there's no like secret special way to make like great. You just got to be
no.
so good at it. You got to be good at it. And if you're not, then and in some ways, I think like I still think direct mail, outdoor radio, like Spotify ads are probably undervalued because it's like flipped, right? It's now gone back
It's
where
post digital. It's post
yeah,
digital now.
I mean, 3 p.m. $3 $3 CPMs. I mean, if I could get that in tier 2 city, right? You know, you're not going to get that in New York City, but if I can get that in like, I don't know, you know, maybe not San Diego, but something like a San Diego, right? Where it's not like LA, that could be really valuable, you know?
Absolutely.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so you're OneScreen.AI, right? I mean, I want to make sure everyone can know how to find your site and get there. OneScreen.AI.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Request a quote, whatever. That's next step once they get to the website.
That's it. I hope, you know, I'm ready. I am gonna promise you this. I'm gonna bring you up to clients because I know people who do out of home all the time and they do different things, right? They're involved in all these different ways. The agency that I brought up, I will bring you up and we'll just see.
You might be the first podcast guest that just like sold us. We're ready to buy now. You know?
Why not, right? Why not? I'm all for it. You know, this is great stuff.
And we'd be happy to build a media plan or a recommendation plan for you to see if that interests you, like for any of our listeners as well.
Yeah, let's go for it. I think it's great. You know, it's we all live in the world, even though we all work with AI and all these other tools now and live, you know, so we're in a physical world. We might as well capitalize on it.
And post-COVID, people are moving out more often than they were. So yeah, it's everything is in the right directions. Yeah.
This is great. Anything else, Isaiah, before we wrap up
No,
today?
I mean, it's really interesting. So we could keep asking questions for hours, but I want to kind of keep it to our normal time frame. So we're not Joe Rogan yet, right? We're not doing a 3-hour podcast.
So. No, I don't know. Not yet. We'll have to have like special guests like Howie Mandel coming in if we do, you know, that. But maybe next time.
Next time, yeah, soon. We are on episode 94. Probably by the time you cross 150.
Exactly. I thank you for that. I think that'll happen. We'll see. All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.